Hi, I'm Johnny from UltimatePaperMache.com, and as you can see, I'm just about halfway through the process of putting some brown paper on this antelope sculpture. It's a fake taxidermy trophy, I guess you can call it. I'm really liking using the paper strips and paste on these particular sculptures just because I don't like the idea of doing a portrait of a dead animal. Making it really obviously paper mache for some reason makes it more playful for me. So I'm not going with the ultra realism that you might be able to get if you used paper mache clay or air dry clay or some other smoother process. But I'm not done with this guy yet. This is a Bongo. It's a rare antelope from Africa, obviously, that has some really interesting stripes and spots and a lot of different colors. This has a foil armature over a pattern that I made, and the foil is the armature. There's no clay over it. Now, you know, if you've seen any of my other videos, I really like using some form of clay, either wet clay or oil-based clay, over crumpled paper or foil to get it nice and smooth. You can get some really nice details, and it really works well for masks. And the reason it works better for masks than something this shape is that you have full access to the back, and taking that armature out is really fairly easy. But I discovered with the cow that it was not easy at all. It was really a major pain in the neck. You just don't have access to it. You're trying to pull out things from inside of there, and the cardboard shape just didn't, it was hard. So this time I decided that I still wanted a really lightweight armature, but I wanted to leave the armature in there, which means no clay. So let me show you how that process happened. I'll show you how I did it, and then in the next video, hopefully we'll see a completed Bongo with all of the stripes and spots. So watch this and see how this was done.
I looked at a whole lot of photographs of Bongo antelopes out on Google image search, and then used those photographs to draw a pattern, and then transferred the pattern onto a piece of 1-inch insulation foam. The only reason I used the foam instead of cardboard was because I happened to have some down in the basement, and I also used it for the backer. It was a little bit easier to keep the pattern standing up straight, just because there was a flat bottom and I could hot glue it to the base. But in order to do that, I did have to cover the foam with foil because the hot glue would melt it. So it was an interesting thing to do, and I would probably do it again if I had any more scraps of foam, but I wouldn't go out of my way to get any. Cardboard works just fine. I did have the basic shapes, the eyes, the nostrils, and the bottom of the jawline actually drawn onto the pattern, and that really helped to make sure that both sides end up being somewhat symmetrical. The eyes are both in the right place, and the horn line, there's a bony ridge that goes from the top of the eyes all the way up to the top of the horn, essentially, and I wanted that that line to be nice and even and definitely in the right place, so the pattern really helped that. Then I just started adding some crumpled foil and using masking tape to add it to the form. I spent a lot of time looking at different pictures of the Bongo antelope from every different direction, trying to get the basic forms on there. I wasn't trying to get, you know, like hyper realistic, but I did want the basic forms. Another thing that really helped was a photograph I found of a Bongo skull online. All of the shapes of the head, with the exception of maybe the front third of the muzzle, is all based on the bones underlying the skin and muscles on the head. If you can get those bones right, almost everything else is pretty much done correctly. But you can't really see the shapes all that well when there's colored fur covering everything up, especially when the fur has a lot of stripes and spots and patterns. It's really difficult to see everything in a photograph. Now you see here that I'm using my modeling tool. It's just a wooden tool to smooth things out, to press things in. I'm using the modeling tool in order to use the foil as much as possible the same way that I would use clay. It's not as easy to work with as clay, obviously, but the tool really did help. The ears were made out of cardboard. I did a little bit of fiddling with the ears later. I'll show you that after we get this part done. The big heavy horns were made with really strong wire that was attached where my pattern said they should go. I just pushed them straight into the armature, trying to anchor them right into the foil. Then I taped the cardboard on and did a lot of twisting and turning to try to get those horns to get that really nice shape that they've got. And then I used my wooden tool again to try to get a nice crisp point or edge along the front edge of the twist on the horns. That seemed to really help get the shape to really stand out. I tried to get those horns as smooth as I could, but you can see that they're still pretty bumpy. So I got out our old friend, the joint compound, and covered the entire armature. I used just a very, very thin layer over the face. I tried pretty hard already on the face to get it pretty smooth. And because I'm going to be using the really heavy brown paper over it, which would cover most really fine irregularities. I don't think I needed the joint compound on the face, but it really helped a lot on the horns. And then once the joint compound was dry, I used a damp sponge just to knock off the points. I never sand joint compound. I don't like the dust flying all over the house, so I just use a sponge and it works just fine.
Now, the one thing I didn't show you in that video was something that I didn't take any pictures of because it was something I messed up and I had to fix, but I want to tell you about it anyway because it was fixable. I did the bottom part yesterday with the paper mache and then put it over the heating vent so it would dry, and then I would be able to put it down on on my table and work on the top. But when this got all dry, I realized that the ears just looked crazy. I hated them. They were the wrong, I don't know, it was wrong. I thought maybe it was that I had cut them the wrong shape or I put them in the wrong place. So I took him down, sat in front of my computer, looked at a whole lot of photographs of bongos, and it turns out it wasn't the shape of the ear that was wrong. It was the curvature, that I just simply hadn't curved that cardboard in the right way. So I held those ears with the dried paper mache and everything under my kitchen faucet and got them wet and reshaped them so it has now a more natural curve. That's not the way I would recommend you doing it, but as you can see, even no matter at what point you are, if it really doesn't work, you can fix it. Now that I know that the wet cardboard is so much easier to shape, I'll probably be doing that in the next one a long time before I put the paper mache on. So that's it for today. In the next day or two, I'll be showing you how this turns out. Hopefully all the stripes and spots will look rather nice when he's all done. I'll see you next time. Come visit me, ultimatepapermache.com.